Hello and welcome back to another tutorial. In this video I'll be sharing how to make firm fitted bustier cups like the one you can see on your screen. Now if this is something you're interested in learning or knowing how to make, you definitely want to keep on watching up to the end of the video. To make this bustier, you'll be needing the following measurements. Before anything else, we have to draft the patterns. I have my upper chest line, my bust, my under bust, and the waist, which is equally the length of this garment. Okay, so I have the neckline, the armhole, just for clarity. So this is the center front here. So from this center front here, I'm going to take half the bust span, which is 4.5. So across these body lines that I have marked out, I'm going to measure 4.5 inches from the center front. So I'm going to start with the waistline, that is 4.5 inches. At the under bust line as well, I'm going to mark 4.5 inches. On the bust line, I will do the same thing, mark 4.5 inches, as well as the upper chest line. Having marked all those lines together, I am basically going to connect all the spots together to make a straight line. Now that I have marked 4.5 inches across all body lines, I'll take my straight ruler and make a straight vertical line from that upper chest line to the waistline, ensuring to connect all the 4.5 inches mark. So having drawn the bust span line, which is this vertical line we just drew, I'm going to contour the dart, and to do this I'm going to mark 1 inch on either sides of that line along the waist and along the under bust. So you can see I marked 1 inch on either side of that line on the waistline, and I'm going to repeat the same thing at the under bust line. Mark 1 inch to the left and 1 inch to the right. Then I would connect it from the under bust all the way to the waistline. I'll be repeating the same thing on the other side of that bust span line. Along the under bust, I'm going to mark 1 inch and 1 inch at the waistline, then connect it with a straight line from the under bust all the way to the waistline. So when you're done, this is what it should look like. So what I'll be doing next, along the point where the bust span line intercepts with the bust point, I'm going to go beneath and above by 1 inch. So from the point where the bust span line and the bust point meet, I'm going to come down by 1 inch and I'm going to go up by 1 inch. So this is what it should look like. Then along the upper chest line as well, I'm going to mark 0.75 on either side of that line, similar to what we did at the under bust and the waistline, just that at this point we'll be using 0.75 and not 1 inch. If you are still watching up to this very point and you have not subscribed, kindly click on the subscribe button to join the family, okay? So what I'll be doing next is to connect the 0.75 inch mark on either side of the bust line to the 1 inch mark that we made above the bust line. So this is what it should look like when you're done. What I'm going to be doing next is to create the breast curve from this point here all the way to this point here. So I'm going to create the bust curve on either side of that line. And to do that, I'm using my ruler. I'm just bending the ruler a bit just so it's flexible or curved enough to make the cup for the bustier. So you want to be careful while doing this just so you don't break your ruler. But if you have a French curve or a bust curve, you could use any of them, but I'm using this for this purpose. Similar to what I did for the other side of the breast cup, I'm equally going to bend the ruler to the opposite direction to create the curve on the opposite side of the pattern paper. Like I said, you want to be extremely careful while doing this, alright? Now for the designers and the tailors in the house, let me know your thoughts about this. Between bustiers and corsets, which do you prefer and which do you find to be more convenient to make for clients or for yourself? Which do you think is easier? Do you have a preference, or you just do whatever the client desires? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Personally, I find bustiers to be relatively easier than corsets, okay? So what I did was to take my body measurements, which is this side line here, and I'll be raising the neckline by 1 inch just so it's not so revealing, because this chest line is relatively low So I'm going to raise the neckline by 1 inch, just so it's not so revealing. But if you want your bustier to be lower, feel free, but I'm increasing mine by 1 inch. And to do this, I'm just going to draw a horizontal line from the center front of the paper to meet up with the armhole line. So this is what my new neckline should look like. Then I'm going to extend the dart lines at the top to meet with that new chest line or that new neckline that we just made. So I'm just going to raise all the darts at the top to meet up with the new neckline. You just want to draw and you just want to raise all the lines to meet it. So this is what you should have when you're done. So this is the new neckline. Now do note that this piece I'm keeping a armhole, or I'm reserving the armhole because I intend to add sleeves to this pattern or to this project that I'm making. Okay, now if you do not want sleeves, you would have to remove the armhole, which is this armhole curve here. And to do this, you'll basically be sloping from the edge of this dart here to meet up with the sides here. But for this purpose, I intend to add a sleeve to this project, hence why I have a armhole there. So this is my center front. The center front I'll be cutting on fold. You can decide to cut your center front into two, like you have two separate front pieces, center front pieces, but I want to cut the center front on fold. Then for the side front, I'm going to be cutting two individual pieces. All right, this neckline is relatively straight. All right, so what I'm going to do is from that upper chest line or that new neckline that we just made, not this one, this first one here, I'm going to come down by 1/2 inch. Okay, now if you want your sweetheart neckline to be deeper, you can come as low as 3 or 2.5 inches, depending on how deep you want your sweetheart or the depth of the center front to be. All right, but I'm using 1/2 inch, and the reason I'm using 1/2 inch is because I'll be attaching a yoke to this garment much later. But for now, let's focus on making the bustier. Okay, so I'm going to come down by 1/2 inch here and connect it to the side of that dart line for the center front piece. So you just want to connect from here all the way to where your 1/2 inch mark is. Like I said, if you want your neckline to be deeper or you want the depth of the sweetheart curve to be deeper, you can go as low as 3 inches for that. All right, so what I'm going to do next is to cut out the sides, cut out the pattern paper. You want to take your time to do this. All right, so you just want to cut out this paper. So do note that I do not have any allowance added to the sides except for the length, which I'll be adding on fabric. So any allowance I'll be adding on fabric. Since I intend adding sleeves to this project much later, I'm going to extend the armhole by 1 inch. Now because of the dart and because I'm attaching a sleeve to it, the possibility of the armhole reducing once I have stitched the dart is very high. So I'm going to extend the armhole by 1 inch, which, as you can see, this is what I'll be working with and not the initial armhole line that we took. So I'm just going to cut out all these pattern pieces, and these are my patterns laid out here. This is the center front, which I'll be cutting on fold, and the side front, which I'll be cutting into two. I'm just going to fold my fabric into two right sides facing and cut out all my pieces. All right, so because I did not add any allowance to the pattern papers when drafting the pattern, I'm going to ensure that when I cut, I add at least 1/2 inch to all the sides of the pattern on fabric, except for the length, like I said, which I've already added 1/2 inch for the length. So for the up part, the dart area and the sides as well, I'm going to cut, ensuring to add about 1/2 inch for seam allowance. After cutting, these are all the pieces laid out here. What I'll be doing next is to cut matching wadding pieces for all the fabric. Okay, so this is the wadding I'll be using for this project, the soft wadding. I'm going to start with the center front of this dress or this blouse. I have it folded into two, and the wadding piece is also folded into two like this, so you want to ensure that it's folded into two. Then I'm going to place the fabric over it like this and cut all the way around, ensuring that the size and the cut of the wadding is exactly the same as the main fabric. So you're just going to ensure that when cutting, you cut the wadding and the fabric to be exact size. Similar to what I did for the center front, I'm going to place one of the side pieces onto a folded wadding, and my wadding is folded into two because I'm cutting for both sides of the blouse, that's the left side and the right side, and I'm just going to cut a matching wadding piece as well. After cutting matching wadding pieces, this is what we have. They are all laid out here. So you can see that the size of the wadding and the size of the fabric are equal. So this is what we have. What I'm going to be doing next is to cut the second layer of wadding. Okay, so what we cut for the first time is the first layer, which is basically to stiffen the fabric. So what this would do is a second layer which would give firmness and that structured look to the bustier cup. So I'm going to fold my center front into two like I did earlier, and now I'm going to cut a wadding piece that extends from the neckline all the way to the under bust line. Now the first one we cut was from the neckline all the way to the bottom, basically the exact length of the fabric. But for this second layer of wadding, we will not be cutting out a wadding that is the exact length of the material. So what we'll be cutting is from the neckline to the under bust area, or from the top of the bust area, from the upper chest to the under bust area. So I'm just going to place the fabric over the wadding piece like this. So do note that the wadding is folded into two as the material, okay, and you can see that it stops right at the under bust line. So this is why you need to take accurate measurement from your shoulder to your under bust to determine where the cup would start and where the cup would end. Okay, so I'm just going to cut like this, and when I open it up, you can see that the the wadding does not go all the way to the bottom, rather it stops just at the under bust point, or where the curve for the bustier ends. So this is what we have, and I'm going to repeat the same thing for this side. Now for this side, I have my wadding folded into two similarly, and I'm going to take one of my side front pieces, place it over the wadding, ensuring that the fold of the wadding stops right at the bust line of the fabric. So you just want to ensure that you have enough wadding to go to the end of the to where the bust line is basically. So you can see that it's shorter along the length and along the sides as well. It does not extend to the end of the fabric on the side, and neither does it extend to the end of the fabric along the length. This is because we will be needing this to just grip the bust area and not go the entire width of the side front. So just see what I'm doing, and I'm sure you'll understand the process. So I'm going to cut a wadding piece or two wadding pieces, one for the left part and one for the right part. So you want to trim off any excess wadding that you might not need. So when I flip it over like this, you can see that the wadding is shorter at the side because you do not want it to get to the side. So what I'm going to do is to create a curve, like a D curve along the side of the wadding. So this is the outer section of the wadding. This is not the dart area. This is the side of the wadding. So I'm just going to create a curve like this. So just see what I'm doing. So you can see that this has a D shape, somewhat like a D shape along the side, and this is because you want that bust area to be firm, and you've already cut out the main wadding which would stiffen the fabric, so there will be no need to cut a bigger wadding that would extend to the side as well. So you can see that this is the shiny part of the wadding, so this would be faced on the wrong side of my fabric. So the side that has this shiny gum would be placed on the wrong side of your fabric like this. So you are going to ensure that you are placing it correctly and you don't have it folding on any side. So when I place the first layer of wadding over the fabric on the wrong side, I should have it looking like this. Then I would take the second layer of wadding, which is the shorter wadding that we cut out right now. So you want to take note of the side which is going to be at the under bust line and the side which is going to be at the neckline. So you can see that it stops right at the under bust line. You want to ensure that you're placing it accurately. It does not go above or below the under bust line. For the side bustiers, I notch the sides just so I know what part goes where and I know how to place it accurately. So I'm going to place one on either side of the side front pieces like this, so you can see that it's aligning with the under bust line. So this is what we have. I'm just going to go ahead and press this down before going to sew it. Okay, now when placing this, I like to place the bigger wadding first before going over it with the smaller wadding. You can do the smaller one first, then cover it with the bigger one. It depends on you. So I'm going to go ahead and iron it and sew it down along the dart lines, and this is what we have. You can see the curve area. So after ironing the wadding, I went ahead to join the dart lines together. So you can see that because of the second layer of wadding that we added, the bust area has become more firm and is more stable as opposed to using just one layer of wadding. And then because we also added a first layer of wadding, the entire Ankara piece would have stability. It's going to be thicker and stronger as opposed to when you just cut out wadding for the bust area only. So yeah, this is basically how to achieve steady, firm bustier corps. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something and found it helpful. If you did, do give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts about this tutorial, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and join the family. Let me know if there are any other videos you would want me to get to, and I would see you guys on another video.